Hey guys, welcome back to the live stream. I hope everyone's having a good day, and today I'm going to be joined by Tolu, and we're going to be exploring kind of all things picking the right medical school for you guys. It's approaching application season, and a lot of you have been sending in questions, so hopefully we can get through as many as possible today. And yeah, make sure you're sending in your comments in the live Q&A section. And yeah, I'm going to switch to the scene so Tolu can introduce herself and tell us how she's been. So Tolu, how have you been? Who are you? And yeah, just your general story.
You've basically taken my line and said my name already, but hi everyone, my name's Tolu. I'm I'm not even a first year anymore. I'm going into my second year of studying medicine at Oxford with Fran. And I've been doing really well recently. Just honestly been chilling, watching loads of shows, and slowly getting back into the habit of working because term's starting soon. So I'm just trying to, get back into the flow of everything. But other than that, I've been good. Been all right. And I'm excited to answer some of your questions as well.
I must ask, and this has nothing to do with picking a med school, what shows have you been watching? Because I'm a Netflix-aholic, and you have to let me know. You have to let me know so I can add to my list.
Okay, this is really bad because I've watched so many shows from start to finish. So, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, That's So Raven, New Girl, Modern Family up to season 7, finished watching all of Waterloo Road, finished watching Umbrella Academy season 1 and season 2, and I'm currently now going to start House. I'm going to end up finishing it really soon. Like, I'm a really bad person when it comes to watching shows. Plus, I've also watched like a number of Disney movies as well. Like, I've watched a lot. Like a lot.
You know what? Like I was when you were talking, I was like, Tolu, that's absolutely mad. But literally yesterday, I finished the whole season from start to finish in the space of like under 24 hours. So I'm like just as bad. But yeah, cool. So guys, make sure if you have any questions about how to pick the right med school for you, how to pick the right university for you, or just anything about Oxbridge, you send them in via the comment section. And yeah, we'll start answering some of your questions for you. So first one sent in by Visualised by Anonymous, and they ask, hey, how are you guys? So I guess we've kind of already answered that question. On my end, I'm pretty good. I spent the morning in bed, chill, just doing a little bit of admin work. What about you, Tolu? What have you been up to today?
Today, honestly, again, just honestly chilling and trying to familiarize myself with Anki, because I just really want to get into using flashcards because I'm tired of spending forever making my notes and stuff. But that's just how I've been doing today.
Cool. Moving on to the next questions sent in by Visualised by Anonymous again, and they ask, what were your options for university and why? So I guess we can just go through the universities that we applied to and why we applied to them.
Should I go first?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So I applied to Oxford, St Andrews, Nottingham and Imperial, and the main reason why I chose those four is because there's a 50-50 split between the BMAT and the UCAT, and in all honesty, like I had quite a strategic approach when it came to applying to my medical schools, so I felt like it'd be nice to go to half and half so that in case one of my admissions tests went wrong, I at least had a backup in the other one. So that's like kind of my main approach for the four in total. And I guess in terms of picking Oxford as my top one, I just felt like it's Oxford and that's something I really want to aspire to. So that was like why it was my top choice. But I was like really I almost decided to choose St Andrews in the end because St Andrews is a really beautiful place. But I guess in total those are my four, and that's like the main reason why I chose them.
Cool. And for me, I applied to University of Edinburgh, University of Oxford, King's College London, what was my fourth one? And Imperial College London. The reasons why are pretty funny. Oxford, like Tolu, like it's like the best med school like in the world, and to be fair, I did like visit beforehand and I really enjoyed the city and the vibes. Edinburgh, this is a really bad reason, but basically at the time Edinburgh was the only university not to interview, and prior to applying through UCAS I'd never done interviews before, so I wasn't confident in my abilities then, so I applied to Edinburgh just in case, you know, I just wasn't good in the interview scene. When I actually started my interviews, it turned out to go quite well. I ended up getting offers from the universities that I had interviews at and from Edinburgh as well, which was great. I applied to King's College London because I liked the university. I was a massive fan of like YouTubers, like medic YouTubers who'd been there, so that medic. Who else is there? Kenji, like there's plenty that went to that university and I was like, it seems so cool, let me apply there. And Imperial College London, similarly to Oxford, for the prestige more than anything. I actually visited there and I didn't enjoy it as much. which is a tip for you guys, visit your universities or do as much research on universities before applying there, because you will have to, study there and live there. Tolu, do you have anything to add, or are we good to move on to the next question?
Environment is a really, really big factor when it comes to applying to university, because medical degrees are 5-6 years long, so you want to end up going to a place where you'll actually enjoy being taught. For me, I felt like Oxford was very much like home, because I come from London. It really reminded me of like that bubbly city vibe, so I felt like that'd be a really nice environment to be living in because I'm used to it already. St Andrews, in terms of aesthetics, is really, really beautiful, and it's really, really nice to just look at, and as well as all the other places as well. So it's really important to sort of bear that in mind when you're applying to universities as well.
Cool. All right, let's move on to the next question. And this is sent in by Josh, who... Oh, okay, we've already answered the question, what med schools did we apply to? Next one sent in by Sophie, and she asks... Wait. I can't read. Where would you go? Okay, where would you go if you didn't go to Oxford, and why? So I guess we can answer this question, where else would we apply? Or maybe, what our insurance choices were. If you want to go first, Tolu.
Mine would have been St Andrews. I was very much obsessed with St Andrews for a really, really long time because I had my doubts about Oxford in general. But St Andrews is in Scotland, and it's a really, really beautiful sort of small sort of city/town vibe. The way they structure, apparently the St Andrews students, like, they're one of the best sort of students when they finish graduating in terms of their practical skills, because they start teaching you practical skills from the beginning. It's got beautiful beaches, amazing like tutors and everything, and I just really, really love the sort of aura and vibe of St Andrews in general. So like, if things had gone wrong with Oxford, I definitely would have seen myself there, because I just loved everything to do with St Andrews at the time. So that would have been like, that was my insurance, and it would have been, I would have been perfectly happy there as well.
Cool. So kind of just to pick off what you said, Tolu, you talked about how you absolutely loved St Andrews, like the vibes, like the scenery, and obviously St Andrews is in Scotland and you live in London, so it's like quite the distance. How do you think you would have dealt with that distance? Because I heard that it's like cheaper to fly to Scotland than it is to catch train and stuff like that, which obviously can get in the way when you're trying to go home.
That is definitely true. So with me, the reason like I had some doubts about St Andrews after I had applied, purely because of the distance it is away from home. I remember for my interview, I took the train up to St Andrews, and it cost like a lot of money, and I felt like having to continuously like buy plane or train tickets to and from home all the time would be a burden in terms of finances, and I honestly didn't really want that as an option, which is why, even though I love St Andrews, I didn't want to have to resort to having to like take so much money out of my pocket to sort of afford being able to go there and travel there. But one thing that's really good about St Andrews and other universities that aren't Oxford is that you don't have to like move out every term like we do at Oxford. There's the option to like live in a house and stay in that house for the year, so technically I could have like kept a lot of my stuff up there instead of having to like bring it to and forth from Oxford as well. But I in terms of distance, it was a lot, and it's something I didn't really try and pay too much attention to, because I knew if I did focus on it too much, I'd get too upset about the distance and the price. But it's something that's really important to sort of factor in when it comes to applying, knowing about how to travel there and back, because it is a very, very like far located university.
For sure. Obviously, like if you guys live more north, it's going to be closer, but similarly to Tolu, I live in like kind of the Midlands area, and Scotland was a bit of a trip for me, and my insurance university was Edinburgh, so if I didn't get the grades for Oxford, I would have went to Edinburgh University, which is also in Scotland. The funny thing about me, more like the foolish thing about me, is I actually didn't check the grades or the minimum requirements for the universities that I applied to, or the standard offers that they gave out. So when I was applying, in my mind, I put Oxford first and Imperial or King's College London as like my second option if I didn't get into Oxford. But in the end, I ended up getting offers from all the places, and the offers were actually the same for Oxford, Imperial and KCL, so they were all A-star AA, so I could only put Oxford first and I had to put Edinburgh second. But looking back in retrospect, if I didn't get into Oxford, I probably would have ended up going to Edinburgh, but as Tolu said, the distance is so far out that it makes it kind of uncomfortable to travel to and from, and the prices are sometimes ridiculous. And for me, something about first year is that I didn't think I'd get homesick, because I thought like once I get to university, I'm out. Like, I'm not calling my mom, I'm not going back home. But that was a lie. I visited home as much as I could, as much as my timetable enabled. And the fact that Oxford, it was like a 40-minute train trip from my home city, made it that much easier to travel home. And obviously if I was in Scotland, it would have been different. But as Tolu said, Oxford kick us out at the end of every term, whilst other universities, the tenancy runs over the holidays. So I guess that compensates for that. So yeah, definitely something to take into consideration, but don't let it be the deciding factor for you, for sure. Next question sent in by Crystalline, and they ask, do you do a lot of PBL at Oxford, and how is it? Dolly's just like, no, nope.
No, we don't. Oxford has a really traditional approach when it comes to teaching. So we learn a lot of the theory behind how the body works and how like drugs work and everything before we even touch anything to do with practical stuff. So it's split up into the first 3 years, which are preclinical years, and then the last 3 years, which is the clinical years. So we mainly do the theoretical sort of academic sciencey stuff behind everything. So we don't really cover much PBL. There are some universities that do a lot of PBL learning, but Oxford is definitely not one of them. And I don't think the places I applied to really did PBL either. It was mainly just practical skill based rather than problem solving, I guess. But yeah, Oxford is not the one for PBL, if that's what you're interested in applying for.
Yeah, cool. My experience, because like the university, the department of the university set kind of what you're going to be learning in lectures and practicals and stuff, but at like a college level, your tutors can like decide how your tutorials go and what you learn in your tutorials. In first year, we actually did one PBL with this particular tutor who was really passionate about PBL and was an advocate for increasing PBL in university. As Tolu said, at Oxford, we're very much traditional. We don't have that many PBL sessions. But during my PBL session, it was quite interesting because our first tutorial was basically giving us all the information about this case study, which was based on this really rare type of anemia. And as a group, so there's 7 medics in my year at my college, we had to go off and discuss, do research, coordinate how we're going to respond back with the information to my tutor. I was actually given the role of coordinator, so I had to arrange all the meetings, make sure that everyone was doing what they were meant to do, make sure we had all the information for our next tutorial. And it was quite a lot of fun, and I really liked how that was like a different angle and style of learning. I wish we did do it more. I applied to universities that didn't do PBL because I feel so ignorant for saying all these things, but I didn't do enough research. I went off the fact that at A level I didn't have the best experience doing group work because no one would do the work, or people would come up with excuses for not delivering quality work. So then I was just like, I don't want to do group work at university. So I avoided applying to PBL universities. From off the top of my head, University of Manchester were the first university to introduce PBL, and they predominantly do it and use it as a form of learning. But a lot of my friends from there thoroughly enjoy it. And in my experience at Oxford, I did enjoy that PBL session. So yeah, if that's something you're interested in, definitely do your research, because it's not like, sixth form. It's like a lot more organized and professional.
The thing is though, with Oxford, one thing that we do are the seminars. So I guess seminars are our PBL equivalent.
Ooh.
So we basically have sessions with one tutor, and then he or she will basically describe a scenario of a person with some particular conditions, and we just basically talk through what those conditions could be, why what we're saying could be wrong and incorrect or right, and so on. So I guess our seminars, we don't have them very often, maybe like twice a term, maybe, but they're like our equivalent of PBL, because we just talk through scenarios and how sort of approach case studies in a way, but it's not really much of an emphasis in our timetable.
To be fair, those seminars are really helpful because, like, especially because we've got that preclinical split, it can be easy sometimes to forget that we're med students and not like biomedical students. So when we have those seminars and we're applying all that knowledge to actual patient clinical problems, it kind of reminds us. And also, it's a new form of learning. In first term, or was it first term, when we first had them, I found them quite challenging because it was like a new way of applying what I'd learnt. But as we went on, definitely got used to it. And the tutor who was leading those seminars is my tutor at Brasenose. So at the end of every single term, we have those seminars as our tutorials. And there's like 7 of us, so you can imagine how deadly it is, especially if no one knows what anything that's going on. But yeah, are we cool for the question, or do you have anything to add, or should we move on to the next one?
That's it for
We
me.
good? Next question sent in by Crystalline as well, and they ask, when should I start preparing for the BMAT? So for anyone watching this live stream who's not aware, the BMAT stands for the Biomedical Admissions Test, and it's used by a lot of universities for biomedicine as well as medicine. Oxford is one of them, Cambridge as well, Imperial College. What are the universities? I can't think off the top of my head.
I think UCL uses it. I think those are the main ones. I don't know.
A few.
Not gonna lie, I tried to block out as much of the BMAT as possible from my memory because it was just not fun times.
Oh, oh gosh. The thing about the BMAT, yeah, is that you're doing it alongside year 13 and also applying to medicine. So it's just like a double like hit. It's so stressful. But to anyone watching this who wants to do it, like if we can do it, you definitely can. In terms of preparation time, I'd say, especially if you're doing the UCAT in the summer, you want to give yourself a bit of a break so you can kind of rejuvenate, recharge your batteries. I'd say give it a month. I don't know how much time you gave it, Tolu.
I did a month as well. Just about a month is like the perfect timing to prepare for the BMAT because you just don't want to overwhelm yourself too much. So a month is like enough to be able to practice everything that you need to.
For sure. And one thing I always recommend to people who ask me this question is right now, kind of when you're not doing anything or you're more chilled out, maybe have a look at the papers, see what they're like, see what they ask for. And if you personally feel as though you need more time because, you know, you're a bit weaker in a particular skill, then maybe adjust that 1 month to 6 weeks. If you look at the paper and you find it easy, maybe adjust that 1 month to, you know, 3 weeks or something. So at least like, you know what you're kind of expecting during your preparation. Hopefully that answers your question. Shall we move on to the next one?
Yep, sure thing.
Cool. Next one sent in by Aksan asks, what do you do in a medicine interview where you don't know what to do? For example, if you haven't come across that style of question before.
Say that you don't know or you're not really sure, but don't just leave it there. Try and at least attempt to say something using knowledge that you currently have. So for example, if you are asked a question on a topic you may not have covered in school, say, we haven't covered this yet, or I'm not familiar with this, but I'd say, maybe because of this and this could be a potential answer. And then whoever's interviewing you would most likely guide you with an answer, because interviews aren't meant to like call people out. It's not really an intelligence test in a way. It's just mainly to see your thought process. So admit to like not knowing things rather than like just pretending that you do, because it won't necessarily benefit you. But just say that you're not really sure, but at least try and say something, and hopefully like the tutor will guide you to the route that they're actually asking for. And yeah, that's just basically that's the approach that I took in my interview. Just say that you're not sure and just at least attempt to say something, and then they can like help guide you for the rest of the answer.
For sure. I think it's so important to realise that, like, as medical students, prospective medical students, as doctors, we'll never be at a point in our careers where we know everything. And there's like a certain beauty in the humility of admitting that, you know, you're stuck, you need a little bit of help. And one thing I recommend that I did in my interviews is that if you understand the concept, but you're not exactly sure where to start, maybe ask the tutor, would you be able to give me a few prompts, a few hints? Would you be able to help me start? Because that shows that you're not completely shutting off the question, that you're really, really engaged and passionate about what you're doing in that interview, but you just need a little bit of help. I did it in my Oxford interviews and I still got in, so it's not going to show the tutor that you don't know like what you're talking about. Instead, it's going to show them that you're honest, which is a quality that is desired in doctors, but just a little bit stuck. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Next one sent in by Sophie, and she asks, what is the top thing to look for when you're applying for med school? Sorry, I'm just reading the comments sent in by Sean.
Yeah, Sean likes to irritate me.
Sean, I'm going to block you from these live streams in a second. Sorry,
Sean's a friend of ours from uni, by the way, in case you guys got
yeah, sorry.
But in terms of Sophie's question, I would personally say mainly the environment, because I would want to live somewhere and study somewhere that I loved and would appreciate being like stuck in for 5 to 6 years. In all honesty, medicine is medicine, and we're all going to end up being doctors anyway. But I would prefer to train to be a doctor in an environment that I actually do enjoy being in, because if I'm stuck somewhere that I don't like, then it will reflect in my work and my studying, and I won't necessarily have the passion to do things. But if I'm working somewhere that I love and enjoy, then that sort of switches in my mind and like helps me just be more motivated and more like happy to learn and study. So I would definitely say initially environment, because it just affects a lot, but then also the style of teaching, because people learn things in different ways, and people may prefer the traditional route, which is more academically focused, or PPL, which is based on case studies, or more practical clinical skills. So be mindful of like those top two things, because that's what influenced my decision when it came to applying to med schools.
Okay, so Tolu's, just gone and stolen my answers, so I'm going to come up empty-handed. But yeah, what she said. Right, I actually don't have much to say because you've said it all. I guess another factor to take into consideration, probably shouldn't be at the top of your list, but for me, was also kind of the rankings. Again, shouldn't be at the top of your list because, you're going to graduate as a doctor regardless of what university you went to. But if you can, and if you have the grades to, or the ambition to, maybe have a look at the rankings for different aspects. So not only like the outcome, but also for student satisfaction. That's something to take into account. Also prospects or graduate prospects. For medicine, slightly different because you're going to graduate with a job as long as you're working around kind of a good grade. But yeah, I can't really add much because Tolu stole my question. So we're about to move on to the next one. Sent in by Megan, who asks, how did you get better or prepare yourself for interviews? So I'm going to talk before Tolu again steals my answer. So how did I prepare for interviews? So as I mentioned before, I was really, really scared beforehand because I'd never had interview prep before. The only interview I'd ever had was my interview for McDonald's, which was really simple. All the basic questions like, can you work in a team? So I wasn't really used to a medical style interview. One thing I can recommend is definitely start with practicing talking to other people, especially those you don't feel comfortable around. So I would try and have conversations regarding medicine or science with my teachers. I know this is a bit like weird, but there was this one particular teacher who was really adamant on getting like all the students who were interested in doing medicine into uni. So she would set up kind of mock interviews, which was really nice. And again, not something that happens at all schools, where we got to speak to teachers about topics based on what we were studying at A-levels. And I found that really, really helped because I wasn't used to being in those situations where I was speaking in a formal setting, having an intellectual discussion about science. And that's something that a lot of traditional interviews are like. So that definitely helped. Another thing that helped for me was watching YouTube videos, especially for MMIs. MMIs can be about absolutely anything, whether it's skills of doctors, role play, testing your communication. So there's no way that you can prepare for all the scenarios that you could get in an MMI. However, I found watching YouTube videos on different stations really, really helped because I was broke at the time. I couldn't really afford signing up for any courses, which is something that I don't recommend because you can definitely get into medicine for free. But I'd watch the free resources on YouTube. Whenever they'd ask the question, I'd pause as if I was in the interview myself. I'd answer the question, then replay the video, and then see the ideal answer or the answer of the YouTuber, which was free and which worked for me. Tolu, what about yourself?
The reason I was laughing earlier is about the MMI bit that you said, like not being able to prepare in advance. And I just remember being asked to test a urine sample, and I'm like, yeah, I definitely wouldn't be able to do this in my normal everyday life. So you definitely will come across questions that you will not be able to practice with MMI, but it's just a matter of knowing how to sort of say what you're thinking out loud and like following instructions well and all that stuff. But in regards to preparing, I honestly just talked as much as possible with as many people as possible, because interviews are basically there to help sort of show tutors or whatever that you're able to like hold a conversation. You can have debates, you can talk about topics and so on, because that's how they're going to teach you. So if you can find anyone and everyone who's willing to have a conversation with you about a science topic, try and teach someone from scratch about something that you're interested in, and just get into the habit of saying what you think and just speaking, because that'll really, really help. And also just knowing how to sort of, I don't even know, just talk. Talking is like what I'd say. Because again, Fran said a lot of really amazing points, but definitely just talk as much as possible, and just be more, practice being more fluent when you speak as well, so it's like easier to comprehend. But other than that, that's just it. And again, just watch YouTube videos like Fran said. And I also would not recommend going on the prep courses because they're not worth it whatsoever. Please do not feel like you have to spend your money on the courses, because I personally feel like the majority of them are scams. So please don't feel the need to take up a course. Just find someone who's willing to talk to you, because you can definitely do without the courses. Because I didn't go on a course, Fran didn't go on a course. We're still both at uni. Like, you honestly do not need to go on a preparatory course for interviews or whatever, because it's just not necessary.
Like, honestly, as Tolu said, like, you don't need to go on these really expensive courses to do well, or to stand the chance of getting into med school. I actually did a course, not for interviews, but for the UCAS. I paid for Medify, which I do recommend because it's like worth the price. And I also did another UCAS course because I was convinced that I was missing out if I didn't do it. So I did the Medic Portal one, which cost, I think, I paid like £120. I can't remember which course it was, but I paid so much for this course, and it was just a series of videos that I was watching that I could have found on YouTube or I could have found for free, and in the end it was not worth it at all. And it was such a shame because I had to save up the amount to pay for that course, and in the end it was more useless than the free resources that were available. So as Tolu said, just be careful that you're not being scammed. You know, only go for a course that you know has been highly recommended or you find worth the price. And yeah, kind of linking onto...
Medify is the only one that I'd endorse.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of linking on to the previous question that we were asked, and this was one that's sent in later on. But someone asks, did the type of interview at that uni play as a factor for which universities that you apply to? No.
Not really, no. I just did it.
Applied.
I just did it.
Just did it.
Didn't mean much to
Which
me.
type of interviews did you have? So you obviously had traditional one.
I had MMI and traditional. That was it.
You didn't have
I
panel?
mean, those are the only two.
No, there's panel as well.
Panel. Oh,
like massive
traditional
panels.
is technically panel.
No, because there's
massive panel.
Did you? Because you were interviewed at Imperial. Did you not have like a panel of 5 people?
But then that was like. Yeah, but then that wasn't really much because two of those people were just there to sort of write and make notes. I did my Imperial interview, but like basically it was just technically traditional interview, but with more people.
Yeah.
Like it was honestly
true.
calm. Just one person asked a question, I answer. One person asked a question, I answer. Like it really wasn't too bad.
Fair enough, because
like it was just a nice little chat.
The most amount of people I had at my Oxford interview were 3 people, and 2 of them were asking questions, 1 of them was writing down. Whereas at Imperial there was 5 people in my interview and they were all asking me questions. There was like a med student. They got med students to interview the students. Imagine that. There was like 2 doctors and then like 2 other people, professors or something. But I found it really, really intimidating.
I mean, same, yeah.
Did you not find it scary to walk into that room?
No, because one thing that I really just taught myself is just to remember that they're all humans. Like, they're not going to bite me. They're not going to hurt me. Like, just have a chat with them because they're interested in you. That's why, like, you got to the interview stage. Like, they want to know more about you and, like, your life story. So, just chat with them. Like, I guess, but I'm just, like, I'm not really a fussy person when it comes to talking to people. Maybe that's just me, but, like, I just don't really find it...
Calm,
you know,
calm. Yeah. I get you.
I just like chatting to people.
Maybe this is not appropriate for me to say, but like something my auntie always tells me in order to like feel comfortable when I'm meeting new people is just imagine them like farting or on the toilet or something. Exactly as you said.
Yeah.
It just reminds you that they're like human beings. Like the Queen poos, guys.
Normal
like the
people. Queen
goes to the toilet. Like, you know, news alert. But yeah, they are normal people and they're not there to eat you alive, I don't think. Yeah. Cool. Moving on to the next question very swiftly, sent in by Silver Surfer, and they ask any tips to smash the BMAT. I will be doing a separate live stream on this, where we go into that more focus, but I guess we can quickly say like our number 1 tip. Tolu's already started. Carry on, sorry.
Practice as much as you can. For section 1, if you've run out of BMAT papers, use the TSA papers. For section 2, make sure you find your GCSE notes if you still have them. Look at the specification and make sure you learn what the specification asks of you. Be mindful that even if you don't take physics at A level, you'll still be given physics questions, so find your GCSE notes. And for section 3, just practice planning essays. You don't have to practice writing it out, just practice writing an essay. So like what you would say, how you'd like link it together and so on. But those are like my main 3 points for the BMAT.
Cool, exactly what Tolu said. One thing I can add is, especially for section 1, I found it incredibly hard, but there were certain questions that I was better at than others. Don't waste time doing questions that you're good at because, you know, you can't get any more correct with those questions. Spend time on questions you're weaker at. So what really helped for me was getting the BMAT book by ISC Medical, whatever, the green book, with like 400 questions in, because they split up the types of questions very well, and I could quickly identify questions that I was weaker at and spend more time doing them, because if you're confronted with that type of question in your actual exam, it will serve you better to have practiced them beforehand. And for section 2, I know that there's a CGP BMAT book which you can access through the website itself, and that has all like everything you need to know. That's what I studied off and just did practice questions using the book. For section 3, I recommend, as Tolu said, planning essays, not necessarily writing them, but if you do write them, definitely show teachers. I showed my essay I showed my essays to my science teachers and my English teachers, who were willing to help me. Most of them weren't, but the ones who were definitely helped me. The science teachers helped me correct kind of the scientific knowledge there. The English teachers were there mainly for helping me structure it, the vocab, the style of writing, all that good stuff. So yeah, hopefully that helps, but definitely tune into my live stream that I'll be doing around the BMAT. It will probably be in September because that's like closer to the BMAT date. Next question sent in by KK asks, should I take both the UCAT and BMAT? Most schools I want to apply to are UCAT, but I really want to apply to the UCL. I'm just scared that I might not do as well on the BMAT and lose out on a choice or offer.
I guess I can answer that question first. I took both of them because I felt like just in case anything went wrong with one of those tests, I'd at least have a backup. So I did 2 UCAT, 2 BMAT, and luckily they both went relatively well, so I wasn't like really stressed out. But then like sometimes something may completely go out of your hands. So like for example in my BMAT, the fire alarm went off, and that could have completely swayed my applications completely. Yeah, the fire alarm went off, and we had to like leave.
Your fire alarm went off?
Just stand outside.
What?
Fire alarm went off in my BMAT. So like if that had like
That's
completely
crazy.
messed up my BMAT, then I at least had the UCAT as a backup, and I could have just gone to a UCAT uni. So I just did it strategically just in case like one went wrong, and so on. But like if you don't want to apply to both admissions tests, you don't have to. I just did it because I was worried about like something not being in my control.
Cool. Yeah, kind of building on what Tolu said, it definitely helps having the options to apply to both UCAT and BMAT universities. Nice thing about the UCAT is that you get your results straight away. So you sit it, you walk out of the test room, and you get your results printed to you. It's the scariest 10 seconds of my life, at least. But then you can find out whether, you know, your UCAT score is competitive enough for you to apply to UCAT universities. I guess it really helps because, you know, if your UCAT score, unfortunately, is relatively low and uncompetitive for universities, you kind of know that you have to do the BMAT to apply to those universities and maybe apply to one UCAT university. Similarly, if you've got a really strong UCAT score and you want to go to this particular UCAT university, you know that you don't have to do the BMAT, or just in case, do the BMAT and apply to one BMAT university. I guess the most stressful thing about the BMAT is that you take it after you've already applied, so it's kind of a risk or a gamble in that sense. That's why for me, I applied to 2 UCAT and 2 BMAT universities just in case something went wrong in my BMAT. Fortunately, they both went relatively well. But yeah, go for it. If you really want to apply to UCL, definitely go for it. You'll have your UCAT done by the time you've done your BMAT. And you know what? Even if you don't get into UCL and you get just one offer for medicine, you're still going to get into medical school and you're still going to become a doctor. And all you need is that one offer to become a doctor. So honestly, take the risks, go for it, because all you need is one offer. Yeah.
I don't have anything more to say.
Tony was just like, okay, cool. Moving on to the next question. Why didn't we apply to any med schools out of Europe or, you know, out of the UK?
I don't know Europe. That's
I don't know it.
I know the UK, the rest of Europe. I just don't know the rest of Europe.
I don't know it.
And because like I want to end up working in the UK, so it makes sense. Like for me, it made sense to apply to a university in the UK because I'm used to the UK system, and I don't have to take time to learn how things worked in other countries. Like it's just,
and there's also language barriers. I'm trying to say. There's also language barriers.
Yeah.
It's just a no from us. It's just a no. It's just a no
from me.
And to be fair, like a lot of the med schools in the UK tend to be the top in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also the distance and the price and like the cost of everything's just better options for us to stay in the UK. But I do know that some med schools abroad are like specifically cheaper. I don't know how much by, but if that's something you're interested in, definitely do your research and go for it. Yeah. Next question sent in by ACVELO. Oh, I've absolutely just butchered that username. All right, okay, I've already answered this question. Oh no, I haven't. Okay, what was your number one factor for deciding which med school to go to? What was your
I can't pick a number one.
You can't pick a number. Okay, you can't
I
pick a
can't
top.
pick a number one. I can pick like a top few, but not a number one. Like
Okay.
one.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you should answer it before I do.
I don't know if I can pick a. I don't even know. What was my deciding factor? Oh, this is really bad. I think it was I'm not gonna lie, yeah, but I think it was prestige. So say like, I mean, I got all the offers from my med schools, and like I automatically thought, okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna put Oxford as my firm because it's Oxford. I don't know if that's a good way of thinking, but thankfully, like, I enjoyed the city, I enjoyed everything there. If I didn't enjoy things as much, I don't know if I still would have put Oxford as my firm. I don't know if like rejecting Oxford would have been an option for me. I don't know if that's just because I come from an African family and that would have just brought like shame. But rejecting Oxford, are you mad? Like rejecting, I don't know, man. What about you, Tolu?
I understand like the prestige thing, but I felt like it was mainly environment and league boards or league tables. So environment, because Oxford's a peng place, really nice environment. I love my college unbelievably. And then it's number one in the world, so good quality teaching, good place to live, bish bash bosh, why not?
Exactly. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Next one sent in by Sean, and he says, no, I'm joking, I'm gonna skip Sean's comment. Next one sent in by Rhea, and she asks, is Oxford what you expected? Ooh, we could do like a whole video on this. Guys, check out her end of term reviews. She's just done her first year review at Oxford University to find out all the details about what her first year was like. But yeah, was Oxford what you expected, Tolu?
Yes and no. Yes, and the fact
that's
that I
such
kind
a cheat
of
answer. You can't say that.
Okay, but I'm going to explain my answer. I'm going to explain it and then you just interrupted me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, yes, and the fact that it's not what I... Oh, wait. No, wait a minute. Now you've made me lose my train of thought.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, Oxford is what I expected in the sense that a lot of, like, the Oh my gosh, Francesca.
Do you want me to go first? I'm sorry.
No, I've got it. Okay, basically, I knew that Oxford wasn't going to be the place where I'd be surrounded by many people of colour. Like, first of all, I knew that already. So, coming in, I knew kind of, like, the people that I'd be surrounded by purely because of things I'd seen on YouTube, things I've seen in the news, and just general like vibe of the university itself. So in that regard, I wasn't really shocked when I came in and I found out I was only 3% of the college intake because of the colour of my skin and all that. In terms of like the value of teaching in the academics, I did expect it, but not necessarily the intensity of it all, because our terms are like 8 weeks long. I knew we'd be getting a lot of work, but I didn't understand how much work we'd be getting. Like, I didn't pick essay-based subjects at A-level. Tell me why I'm now writing 2 to 3 essays a week.
Honestly.
Like, that kind of stuff is what I wasn't used to. But in terms of, like, the general vibe and, like, environment and the gist of everything, I kind of predicted it because of things I'd seen in the news and heard from my friends and, like, just seen around in general. So, I would say that.
Cool.
I think. I had other things to say, but then I thought, but let's see if Fran can, like...
Hopefully it'll come back to you. I feel really bad. You look really stressed earlier. My sis was having an existential crisis just then. I'm joking. I guess for me, Oxford wasn't what I expected. I guess we're seeing a rising trend appearing that I didn't do as much research as I should have. So I kind of went into Oxford with the delusion that, you know, it would resemble, in terms of diversity, that it would resemble my home city, which is very much metropolitan, very much diverse. Like, the ethnic minorities in my school were the majority.
Of the majority.
Like, literally. Yeah. And then I went to Oxford, and in my college, I was one of 5 black people in a college of 500 plus. So that was definitely a massive shock for me. So in that sense, no, it wasn't what I expected. I didn't expect to not see a single black professor or lecturer, a person who looked like me. I didn't expect to kind of walk around the city, less so the city centre, like the town shopping area, but more so like the university spaces, and to be one of few. Exactly as Tolu said, I didn't expect the workload to be that intense. Like, I'd seen students on YouTube talking about how, you know, it is quite intense because we have shorter terms, but that's kind of offsetted by our really long and lengthy holidays. But I didn't realise it was going to be that intense. I guess the massive shock came from the fact that we finished A-levels in like June, and we had from June all the way to October that fat break of, I mean, personally, I didn't do anything. I was just working over summer, living my best life.
I was enjoying myself.
Literally just enjoying myself. So when I came back to uni in October, it was just like a whoa. So that wasn't what I expected. I expected the teaching quality to be amazing and for them to be on top of research the way that they actually are. But I guess there was more stuff that I didn't expect than I expected, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's answered your question. I don't know if you've got anything else to add. Hopefully, did anything come back whilst I was speaking?
No, it did not. No, it did not. So I'll just move on to the next one.
We'll just move on. Who's next? Next one sent in by Megan.
Go.
Asks, were you always certain that you wanted to study medicine?
Yes.
Really?
Just like I knew growing up, I had like the whole I want to be an author, I want to be that, I want to be that. But then like it got to the point where when I properly understood the realities of adulthood, that medicine made the most sense. So I like started doing like medicine-y things from year 8 onwards purely, but like I didn't say if I wanted to study medicine from that age, but like I just started doing medicine-y things from that point. And I guess like I ended up just tailoring my life around medicine-y things without realizing, and I was like, oh wait a minute, okay, maybe I should just apply to medicine. That's just like my approach when I was growing up. So I feel like just the ages, it's just been what I do ish. And I just felt like I may as well continue on because I love it. I love helping people in that sense. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
I guess for me, it was slightly different in the sense that I went through all those phases, changing my mind about what kind of career path I'd see myself in, but later than most. So I was still like deciding, changing my mind up to the year of probably like year 11/year 12. I actually wanted to do chemistry before I wanted to do medicine, so I actually applied to a lot of chemistry orientated work experiences and summer schools. So I did unique chemistry. Tolu, did we meet each other in unique or something? I can't remember if it was.
No, we did not. I wait a minute.
I think we did. You did medicine.
I knew you went, but I don't know if like we properly interacted.
Did you?
We probably said hello to each other in passing.
Yeah.
But we don't like properly interact with each other.
Yeah. Because I just remember you guys being like the medics and being so cool, because I changed my mind as to wanting to do medicine during like the unique period. And I was always like up close with the medics at Brasenose, always asking them what they'd done. And you guys did like the coolest things. Like we did cool things in chemistry.
I remember.
I just was like so jealous of like the medics at summer school. But yeah, honestly, it was so much fun. But it did show me that I didn't want to do chemistry, because I was in labs and this was around like 28 degrees heat, wearing full covered clothing because you have to be fully clothed in the labs, doing chemistry, mixing chemicals. And although that was so much fun for like 20 minutes, 4 hours of extensive mixing chemicals and just, you know, talking to chemicals was not for me. I needed more interaction, more human interaction. I needed to see kind of my work being applied to like a human context, and I just thought medicine was so much more for me. And I guess that was the summer that I did a lot of work experience, which kind of solidified that medicine was for me. In my own personal view, I'm still not 100% set where I see myself, 100% certain as to where I see myself in the next 10 years, whether I'm going to be doing research, whether I'm going to be a clinical doctor, whether I'm going to be doing stuff internationally. So that's something I'm still deciding, and that's absolutely okay. Like, you know, when you're applying to medicine, you're 17, 18, and you're not going to be 100% certain. But I guess because medicine is so vocational, it's so important that you find out as much about the career as possible so you're making an informed decision.
Definitely agree. Definitely.
Cool. If we don't have anything else to add, we'll move on to the next one. By the way, Tolu, are you good to stay for the next like 10 minutes-ish? Because we have a couple more questions to get through.
Yeah, I'm completely free. So
cool.
Just off the way.
Love that. Next one sent in by Ngami Kezia asks, do you write a lot of essays, and do you enjoy writing the essays? I'm going to let you talk whilst I just laugh quietly in the background, because...
it depends. Okay, in Oxford, the number of essays that you write depends on the college that you go to. I go to Keble College, and usually on average we will get around 2.5 essays. Sometimes 1, sometimes 3, maybe 2. That's why it's 2.5. It depends on what we're covering in that term at that time, and like how many times we see our tutors. But usually when we have a tutorial, which is like basically a class a room where you have a discussion about a topic with a tutor. Like, we'll have an essay based on that tutorial. So it depends on that, but usually about 2.5 essays in a week. In terms of enjoying them, it depends on the topic. I am obsessed. I love physiology. I love medical genetics. I love biochemistry. If you ask me to write a question on anatomy, it's a no-go. I will not enjoy it. So it depends on the topic that we're like being asked to write an essay on. That will influence whether or not I like it or not. But I guess I just like learning really new things. But yeah, that would be like my answer to that question. But it's not really a lot. Initially it is a lot. Like, it's a big slap on the face. But then you do get used to it, because you then sort of realise a pattern of how you best write your essays. So like how you structure your week to write essays, and all of that stuff. So that's just basically, yeah, that's my opinion on essays. But hopefully Fran stopped laughing so she can, answer her.
Yeah, I've composed myself. I guess for me, the reason why I was laughing is because the amount of essay crises, is that the plural, that I had last term during the whole year was just too many to even count. So every time I think of essays, I associate my experience with the essay crises, staying up till 3 a.m. trying to get an essay done, which weren't fun times. But I'm not gonna cry, so I'm gonna laugh instead. Objectively speaking, do I enjoy writing essays? The answer's actually yes. I love writing, creative writing, and I don't do it as much as I should do, but I like writing. I enjoy the art of writing. Now, when put into the context of being a university student at the University of Oxford, balancing doing 2-3 of these essays alongside getting your lectures done, alongside doing your practicals and, life, the stress of kind of that environment does mean that I don't enjoy essays as much as I should do. But objectively, I do enjoy writing the essays. I think it's a really fun way of integrating everything you've learnt in a very sophisticated way. Yeah, and as you kind of progress through term, you naturally get into the habit or your routine of writing the essay. So my first ever essay, which was set in Freshers Week. I don't know about you, Tolu, but I was set in an essay Freshers Week. This is mad.
So we were set an essay in Freshers Week, but it wasn't due until 2 weeks after. Like, we knew the title, but it wasn't like... But yeah, my first essay is not one to talk about, because I just didn't answer the question properly, and my tutor called me out in the tutorial, and it's now like a running joke between us.
Do you know what's so funny? Oh, carry on, sorry.
No, that was it. That was the story. That's done.
It's so funny because our tutor is really nice in the sense that if you get beyond a certain mark, so if you basically fail the essay, he won't write your mark on the actual essay. It's only if you get above a pass that he starts to write the number that you got. So whether you got 4 out of 8, 5 out of 8, 6 out of 8, 7 out of 8, etc. So our first essays, I just remember looking at the back. I didn't even read the individual feedback. I just turned straight to the back to see the number on the back to see whether I passed or not. I just remember seeing nothing, and it was a couple of us at Brasenose who didn't have a number, and then we find out in the tutorial that if there's no number, it means you failed. So yeah, my first essay was a fail too. I spent way too long on it, and I, just as Tolu didn't answer the question, but it's absolutely normal, like, especially if you did A-level biology, chemistry, maths, you didn't do essays in the subjects, and, that essay in AQA biology does not count as an essay. But yeah, you get into the habit of things, and by the end of term, I was writing essays that were getting me good grades, and I was writing them pretty quickly. I was getting them done in, like, a night, which is pretty speedy for me. But yeah, that's my answer. Moving on to the next question, sent in by Steffi, and she asked, if you didn't have 5 GCSEs A star to A, but you had great A levels, do you think you'd get into Oxford? I think a good way of starting answers. Oh, Tolu, go on. Go.
Just to say that we aren't admissions tutors, so what we say isn't necessarily the be-all end-all answer. If you look at the Oxford website and like particular divisions on that website, they will break down usually the statistics of previous people who managed to get in. I can't say what grades constitute you getting in, because it's not necessarily like one set grade that you must get in. It's like a number of factors that are considered. So it's GCSEs, it's your admissions test, it's where you come from, like your socioeconomic background, it's your personal statement, it's your interview, that are all considered together as a whole rather than just one individual thing sort of pinpointed and looked at. So I can't really give a straight answer to that, but it's just a case of it's looked at holistically rather than just one individual thing. But you can always like get in touch with admissions tutors and ask questions if need be, or just check out the websites for more details, because we aren't admissions tutors, so what we say doesn't necessarily go.
Yeah, 100%. 100% what Tolu said. It's so important that you realize that like what a lot of like students on the internet say isn't kind of the opinion of the objective opinion of admissions tutors. So it's so important that you check out what the official Oxford website say and email the admissions if you have specific questions. One thing I can say is don't let like your GCSEs kind of turn you off like applying to Oxford. If that's where you want to go and you know you say that you've got great A levels, definitely go for it. I know of people who, you know, didn't have those grades at GCSE but still got in. But it's so important that you're realistic with everything as well as being ambitious, and you know kind of the realities of what to expect when applying. I'll put a link down below to the Oxford page for the medical divisions and where they cite kind of all the requirements, so you can check that out after this live's finished. Next question sent in by Rhea, and she asks, did you start learning year 13 content in the summer? So I'm guessing you're going into year 13. I guess this year's slightly different because, you know, teaching just stopped in the middle of March for some schools. Yeah. For my sister's school, state school, her teaching just stopped when lockdown started. One thing I was telling her, because she's going into year 12 right now, so she should have done her GCSEs this year, because her teaching essentially stopped was it March when we went into lockdown? At that stage, she hadn't finished her whole GCSE course, and I was explaining to her that although you're still going to get grades, it's so important that you carry on learning, not only to keep your brain active, but also because you're going to need that knowledge for year 12, like especially if you're doing sciences. Oftentimes, you know, you'll just be learning stuff on top of what you learned at GCSE. Whether you should start learning year 13 content over the summer, I think the summer's there for you to relax, but I definitely recommend doing kind of the transition work, because the A levels are linear and not modular, meaning that you don't do any end of year exams that count at the end of year 12. It's so important that you're staying on top of your year 12 work. So maybe don't do intensive 6-hour study sessions, but maybe think about starting your revision slowly, making revision resources, so flashcards, all those good stuff that you can use when the exam season in year 13 comes. So essentially right now, try and make it as easy for yourself later on when you're going to be a lot more stressed.
Yeah, for me, I'd say I personally didn't do much year 13 work. I'd say just solidify your knowledge so far and make sure that you're ready to apply it for when you do end up covering content in the next year. So yeah.
Cool. Next one, and this is a fun one. What is the ACS like? So for those of you who don't know, ACS stands for African... Tolu, why are you chuckling?
I'm smiling. I'm smiling.
So ACS stands for African Caribbean Society. And yeah, I mean, for me personally, the ACS has been my home away from home. Oxford isn't the most diverse place, so ACS is almost like a hub of people who look like me and remind me of what home's like, and I really like that sense of familiarity, that sense of being like my home city and my family almost. And the ACS host the littest events, I must say. Like 2 terms ago, we had a Take Me Out, ACS Take Me Out, which was absolutely hilarious. Freshers Week, there was a meet and eat where we met like other ACS freshers and we ate pizza. Like meeting other people and eating, I'm sold. I'm sorry, there's free pizza, I'm sold. And yeah, it's just been a really, really nice family of people that I've made friends with. And it just goes to show that whatever college you end up at, you're not just limited to making friendships in those colleges. You can also go to amazing societies, sports clubs, and branch out and make friends from other year groups and other colleges there. Tolu, how's ACS been for you?
ACS has been amazing in the sense that I'm used to being surrounded by a lot of ethnic minorities and just being in a general diverse hub in any way. So coming to Oxford was a bit of a shock for me because I wasn't used to being the literal minority when it came to an ethnic minority. Like I was used to being in the majority. So ACS for me was kind of like a coping like haven for me to be surrounded by people like me, because it just made me feel a lot more close to home. I met so many amazing new people, and it's just nice to see the new friendships that you're able to form from a society like this. Like Fran said, there are a number of really, really fun events that we were able to take part in. So not only did we have the meet and eat and the Take Me Out, we'd have formal dinners together. There was a screening to watch Queen and Slim, which was really cool. Like there are just so many events that are taking place. That's really nice. And plus there's a lot of access work that ACS do as well. So they reach out to students, students reach out to them, and they just help in terms of their application process. And it's just really, really great in that regard. And there's also a number of responsibilities that you can like take part in to just support the ACS in general. So like I'm friends closely, well, he was in the chat earlier, but Sean, who like was disturbing us late earlier, he's the president of ACS, and there's just so many responsibilities that you can sort of be a part of. I'm now the incoming PR officer for the ACS, so like there are a number of things that you can like apply to do, and it's just really fun to sort of be surrounded by people like you and be able to do things together and have fun. But yeah, the ACS is just really lit, and there are like a number of societies in universities anyway, regardless of your background. So I know, like, if you come from an Asian heritage, for example, there will be Asian societies. Depending on your religion, there are societies that link in with religion and, like, all sorts of things. So you'll definitely, like, find somewhere that suits you and, like, your interests. But ACS for us has been, like, really amazing.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that, like, the ACS, you know, the events aren't exclusively for people from African Caribbean societies. They're open up to everyone, and the events are just amazing. So it's something that you should all kind of try to get involved with or attend. Definitely recommend. Next question sent in by Ikleel. I'm so sorry if that's not how you pronounce your name. And this is a pretty good one. And they ask, I'd love to apply to Oxford, but the fact that you don't get much clinical exposure, so early exposure, is worrying. Many articles state that med students who are clinically exposed earlier make better doctors. What do we think?
I don't think it's that much of an issue, to be honest, because you'll still eventually learn the same clinical skills. It's just a matter of having a better understanding of the theory behind things first before learning the clinical skills, which I personally preferred. Like, instead of injecting a needle into someone and like getting venous access, I want to know why I'm getting the venous access, what I'm actually looking for. So in that regard, you're technically more prepared because you know why you're doing what you're doing on like a scientific level. And you still get the training eventually. It doesn't really matter because even now we do get some access. So we have GP sessions where we see some patients and just talk to them and interact with them. But I feel like the clinical skills, it doesn't really matter. Like doing it in the clinical years onwards, to me, isn't really much of an issue because you will still eventually learn it. Like, it's just a matter of preference, I guess.
Yeah,
so if you're really like keen on clinical skills, then it will affect where you apply to. But in all honesty, it's not really that much of an issue.
Yeah, exactly as Tolu said. I think it comes down more to whether you want to get hands-on straight away or whether you'd like to learn the theory first and then do the application and the clinical practice later on. In my personal experience, I really, really liked science. I really wanted to get hands-on with the research itself, and I didn't think I'd be ready to have like intense patient contact, clinical contact straight away. So I really like the preclinical clinical split of Oxford, and I was super engaged with research, as I mentioned. So I really like the fact that Oxford, you do intercalation, third year mandatory, which was really, really nice. As Tolu said, I don't think there's much difference between the quality of doctors that graduate from Oxford as opposed to integrated universities. It's definitely down to preference. Some of my friends at universities such as the Barts in London, where they have clinical contact from like literally first term, tell me that they prefer that in the sense that they learn the content, they learn the theory behind it, and they apply it at the same time, which is quite nice to them. At Oxford, we do have something quite similar, but not to the same extent, in the sense that if we're, say, in physiology, we're learning about cardiovascular physiology, the practical around that time, the physiology practical would be kind of relating to the ECG, learning. So in the lectures, you'll learn about the ECG, why it works, why kind of it displays the way it does, and in the actual practical you'll physically be doing the ECG, so I guess that's nice in that sense. Similarly, we'll learn about blood pressure, learn how to take blood pressure, what blood pressure means, and around the same time we'll be doing a practical of doing blood pressure. So you still get those clinical skills just to a lesser extent, and it's nice that we're going to have a whole 3 years later on in clinical school dedicated to kind of learning those clinical skills and refining them. So yeah, hopefully that's answered your question. Moving on to the next one, because we're almost at the 1 hour mark. This is sent in by Zoe, who asks, why did you pick Oxford over Cambridge? This is a question I was expecting. I was expecting this one. Shall I go first?
For me, I'll go first. It's fine. For me, it was the fact that Cambridge is too quiet. Cambridge is too quiet, and I did not like that at all. Coming from London, I am used to noise, I am used to chaos, I am used to just a lot. Oxford
energy,
was more related to that, and I felt like it's just reminded me more of home, and it's just nicer to be surrounded by a lot more noise, not like hella like a lot of noise, but just like more people in general, more busy vibe, and more like a greater sort of environment, I guess. There's just more to do in Oxford as well, and in terms of like, I guess, I don't know, it's just the environment for me. I want to live somewhere for 6 years that isn't just a bush. Like, for me, Cambridge was just like, it was just all trees and parks. That was it. Like, trees are nice, but like it was just that. But Oxford has a lot more substance to it, in my opinion. So I don't want any people wanting to go to Cambridge to come attack me. But like, Oxford for me it just did more for me in that regard. Like, I'm finished. Yeah.
For me, I went to summer schools at both places, so like I experienced living in both Oxford and Cambridge. As Tolu said, Cambridge was a village to me. It was foreign land to me. Tell me why the train station is like a 30-minute bus journey away from like the actual city centre. I did not understand that. Surely you have your train station in your city centre. But anyways, another thing about Cambridge is that the town centre is literally like, it's tiny. Like, where are the shops? I'm sorry, but if I'm to live in that city, I need to enjoy the city as my home city. Like, do you get what I mean? And Cambridge for me was just two village vibes. I just could not hack it. And I genuinely enjoyed my experience at my Oxford summer school, unique summer school, a lot more than my Cambridge one. What made my experience there was the people and also the current students. So I guess it does have a massive impact on you, like the experience you have at like open days, summer schools. But yeah, I picked Oxford because I enjoyed it more, and it was more like my home city. Another thing that I did was I looked at kind of the admissions process and how like how the two universities take different things into consideration. So for Oxford, they put high emphasis on GCSE grades and your BMAT score for shortlisting candidates for interview, whereas Cambridge kind of look at it holistically prior to interview and just kind of shortlist a lot more people. At Oxford, I knew that my GCSE grades were strong, so I knew I had a good chance of getting to interview. And at Oxford, once you're at the interview stage, it's like 3 kind of candidates fighting for one spot. Whereas at Cambridge, because they shortlist so many people for interview, once you get to interview, it's 7 people fighting for like one spot. I don't know if my statistics are correct, but that's something I also took into consideration. But again, shouldn't be your determining factor. Yeah, we're going to quickly answer one more question. I know it's been over an hour, but I thought this one was really important for us to answer and to address. So Tolu, is Oxford worth the hustle of getting in? Where did you... Okay, I thought your audio had gone.
Yeah. No. I was just thinking. It is worth the hustle. Despite like all the work and like the intensity of it all, I still love the environment. I still love the people that I've met as a result of coming to this university. I'm loving the access to amazing tutors who specialise like in these amazing fields as well. And for me personally, it's like my dream place to study. It challenges me in the right ways. It's like teaching me things I never had access to. Like, I honestly love it in that regard. And I guess like the intensity of the work and like how much work we do is basically good value for money, because we're paying tuition fees, and the amount of work we're getting is making me feel like, okay, yeah, I'm actually paying to do something, which kind of helps overall. But I would say it's definitely worth the hustle. Hustle, either one, for me at least. It just works with how I sort of vibe with life in general.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. For me, personally, although like I've complained about my time at Oxford quite a lot, looking back now at my first year, I am so grateful as to where I've kind of been, like where I started and how far I came over the course of just 1 year. I just remember like praying to get into Oxford back in 2019 when I was applying, and I got in. So like just the fact that like I got in is so amazing, and the fact that I completed a year when like 6 months ago I was struggling over essay crisis. I was struggling about like I was literally just in like the worst possible state. The fact that I've completed the year is so amazing, and looking back, the hustle was definitely worth it. It's taught me so many skills that are so important to life, such as resilience, which is something we're going to need a lot of when we become doctors. And I just think in that sense, it's training us to become better doctors, because although the workload is a lot, that's kind of what we're signing up for. When we sign up for a career in medicine. I've met the best people. As Tolu said, the tutors that we have are literally world leading. They're literally the best in their fields. They can give us specialized help in those areas, which is absolutely amazing. The possibilities, the things that are available to you just simply because you go to Oxford are like beyond me, and I honestly thank God that I was able to kind of have that experience, to have such things available to me. So I definitely say it is worth the hustle. If you want to apply to Oxford, definitely apply. Don't be put off by, you know, the workload, because in the end, when you graduate in 6 years time, you're going to look back and be so proud of kind of how far you've came. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Tolu, I don't know if your audio is working, but I can't hear anything. Oh,
I didn't say anything.
you're back.
I didn't say anything.
No. I don't know if you're muting yourself, but like the background noise just go. Okay, that makes so much sense, because I was just hearing background noise and then all of a sudden nothing. But yeah, I guess we're gonna finish the live stream here. I'm so sorry that we weren't able to answer all the questions. I tried to target the questions that were relating to the live stream. If you have any more questions that you desperately want us to answer, definitely put them in the comment section, or, you know, DM us on either one of our Instagram accounts. The details will be in the description bar below. Follow Tolu on her Instagram and her YouTube page. The handle is Tolu Duckworth for her YouTube page. She does amazing content about being a medical student and everything else surrounding that. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning into the 7th live stream of my series, and definitely keep your eyes peeled for ones that I'm going to do this week and next week. We're going to love you and leave you, and we're all going to see you in the next live stream. Thank you for coming once more. See you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.